Hey guys, Anna here again with another 20-minute oil painting demo for you. Today's painting is going to be of people at a beach in Southern California. I don't know about you, but I am so ready for spring, and a lot of us are getting ready to head out on vacation for spring break or just to get away from whatever cold place we live right now. So this demo is perfect timing. I think many of you are going to enjoy this, and hopefully you can apply this to wherever you're headed next. 20 minutes is a great amount of time to just get out there, get a little study in, get some vitamin D, and hopefully head back in without a sunburn. So let's go ahead and get started. On my palette today, I have cadmium red, transparent oxide brown, yellow ochre, warm light yellow, warm white, and ultramarine blue. For my brushes today, I'm working with a size 8 Rosemary Company Kolinsky Sable Series 33. It's a round, and a size 4 Ivory long flat. I'm also working with a silver Grand Prix filbert size 1 and a Raphael round size 2. I will also be blocking in with some vine charcoal. All right, let's go ahead and set the timer starting now. And I'm going to grab my vine charcoal just to start off, just to draw in my design as quickly as I can. Now, when I was trying to figure out which reference photo I wanted to work from for this demo today, I decided to take it into Photoshop and break it down into just 3 values. And what happened was it made this large shape combine with the shapes of the people in the foreground. That was one value, that was my darkest dark, and then my middle value was this plane here at the horizon line, and then my lightest values were the foreground and the background. And so I'm going to try to stay true to that and indicate those values as best I can while still having a few of those in between things here and there in the painting to make it more interesting. But my main design is going to be just showing these people in the foreground here, combining those shapes with this large rock shape here, and then perhaps I can still paint the clouds, but maybe make them a little more interesting than what I'm seeing in the reference photo. So that's kind of how I'm going to start. Now for my sky, I'll go ahead and grab some warm white and some ultramarine blue and make that my sky color. Just start blocking that in as quick as I can. Why did I choose warm white instead of titanium white today? Well, I want the whole color palette and harmony in this painting to feel predominantly warm, just to show not just the temperature of that day, but the fact that we're on a sandy beach. It's the whole thing should feel warm, and we can do that by choosing colors that lean towards the warmer color temperatures. So I'm going to add a little bit more white as I get further down. The sky gets bluer and darker the further away it is from your horizon line. Maybe I'll break up these cloud shapes a little bit. Doesn't hurt. Now in order to get a gray color, I don't have black on my palette this time, so I'm going to use ultramarine blue and transparent oxide brown and mix those together to get my grays. And I want to mix them close to where I have my blues for the sky so that I can match those values as close as possible. That's still a little too dark. Throw some of that in there. And I want the clouds to feel a little bit heftier than they are in the photo, so I'm going to add some shadow at the bottom of my clouds here, just to give them a bit more volume. And then I'll grab from my pure white to finish the whites of the clouds. Of course, it's not pure white, it's warm white, so it's going to look slightly yellow, especially next to all that blue, and I am totally okay with that. That's kind of what I want it to look like. Now I can play around with these shapes a little bit more later on as I go, but the clock's ticking, so I've only got 4 minutes to go. I've only been painting for about 4 minutes. Correction. I'd be panicking if I only had 4 minutes to go. But again, I can just block this in really fast, not worry too much about edges at this point, and then I want to move on. So let's go ahead and get those darks in right now. We can do the same thing here with the blue and the brown to mix some real dark darks. That's pretty dark, but I'm going to use that as my base for this cliff, and I can always lighten it or darken it as I go. And I can also paint the sky up to that edge eventually. But I'm testing the waters here. I'm trying to see if this is really the value that I want. It's pretty close. And the cool thing about painting directly onto a white canvas this time is that some of that texture of the canvas can show through. I haven't added any solvent or medium to this, but, and I talk about this a lot in my videos, for my darks I like to choose colors that are transparent when they're coming out of the tube, and that way I can have that freedom to make them feel transparent on a white canvas or even on a toned canvas, I suppose, and then they mix really well with my lights. But I just find that I have more options and more freedom with working with transparent darks than if they were opaque. So now I've added some of that white into my mixture, and I want that to get lighter as the haze creeps up on us in the background here and those cliffs get further away in perspective. So that's going to give us a feeling of atmosphere and hopefully some depth to this little landscape. I'm squinting as I'm doing this to kind of see where those lights start to get darker in the foreground. All right, we're at about 13 minutes to go. And I still have some residual white on my brush, and I can use that to add some texture to this cliff here. And maybe add a little bit more blue to the base of it. That's going to give us some real nice illusion of that slope. Cliffs are something you can paint real fast. If you're just willing to see the main shapes and values. That was way too light, so I'm going to go back and darken that. And just use your brush to create texture inside that shape. All making sure though, this is all in the shadow family here, so I want to make sure that I'm not getting too light or too pronounced with some of the shapes within that larger shape. I'm introducing yellow ochre, and I want to go a little bit lighter than that, so just a touch of warm white here to show some of the sun filtering through on the cliff in here. And maybe up at the top. Of course, I'm not worried about making this the same exact outline or shape as what is in my reference photo. If I had more time, perhaps I would do that and be more careful with the drawing. But this is a 20-minute painting. I'm always having to remind myself that priorities, get the big shapes, the values, the colors. The drawing doesn't have to be spot on for this. In fact, the more impressionistic, probably, the better. All right, so I'm going to clean my brush real quick, and then I'm going to start mixing up something for Actually, I'll mix it over here. For that background blue, that beautiful landscape behind our cliff. And the reason I put cad red out is so that I could mix up some purple for that background. But a little bit of cad red goes a real long way, so just be careful when you're adding that into your mixture, because it has a very strong tinting power. Could go just a tad lighter in value. This is where you have to be careful and really squint down and compare your values, because we want this to be lighter than that cliff in the foreground, even lighter than the lightest part of the cliff, because it's quite a ways further in the distance. So that means I just need to add more white to my mixture. And then it can get a little bit darker as it goes off to the edge of the canvas here, simply because there's less haze and ocean spray on that side of the image or the scene. Well, let's finish off the sky on this side. I'd hate to leave that hanging. And what I can do now is take the edge of my brush and sort of sneak up to the edge of that shape there and pull back, and it gives me a completion, you know, so that it's all covered with paint, but it also gives me a softer edge. I can do the same thing on that side here by the cliff. So my tip here is to make sure that you have enough paint mixed up for your sky tone, because the last thing you want to be doing is trying to match your color again. That can be a real waste of time. So at the start, when you're doing this, make sure you mix up enough to cover the entire sky, and maybe have some extra in case you need to adjust your drawing later. I'm going a little bit darker here at the top. And I'll do the same thing here. Push into that edge and pull back. And that'll start to come together really nicely. You can also do that with some of the wet paint in the clouds, just to get some wispiness to them. Just pull back with your brush. Yeah, I like it. And so let's finish off that sky on this side then, with some of the shadows inside the clouds. Of course, depending on whether you're right-handed or left-handed, this can cause you to have to change up the angle of your brush a little bit too. Don't be afraid to mix it up. All right, let's mix up some water. It's similar to the sky, but there's a little bit more purple in it. So I'll take some of what's left over from what I used in that background and throw that in there. And then it becomes more of a green blue further off at the edge there, but that, I guess, that is minor detail, I suppose. But I wanted to see if I can pull it off in our limited amount of time here. All right, let's grab some warm light yellow, some transparent brown, and some ochre. Play around with this color up here. I am going to dip my brush in the solvent just so that I can get this a little bit more spreadable. Get it on real fast, because I'm running out of time. another middle value right here where the sun is hitting the side of the cliff. And that's great because it kind of breaks up our shapes a little bit, gives us a nice buffer between all those bright lights and the dark of the cliffs. Not too worried about my people shapes, I can always get those back. But I want to show where some of these cliffs jut out. Oops, I got some red on my brush. And where the sand meets the ocean. I'm going to take my real soft brush and go in and knock some of that down. Get it really soft. Clean my brush again. Just a few minutes to go here. I want to make sure I put some waves in. They don't have to be perfect, but if you really want it to look like waves, don't be afraid to use a lot of paint. Especially if there's already a lot of paint underneath it. So that's where you've got to just load up and don't be afraid of some paint volume. And then this is another spot where value is going to be real important because that value of the water is almost exactly the same as the sand, right here where it hits the shore. Minutes to go. Okay, what can we do in 3 minutes? A lot. Gets a little bit darker here and back here, which shows you where the sand is wet, I suppose. That's kind of what that value indicates. All right, and then we've got some time to add some people. So I'm gonna grab a smaller brush, grab some of my dark shadow colors here. Again, the ultramarine blue and the transparent brown should do the trick. And let's just start blocking in some people real fast. This is where gesture drawing can be of great help. It's good practice. Don't look at the details. You know, when you only have 2 minutes left, just think shape, value, and gesture. And of course, every solid form here in the direct sunlight is going to be casting a shadow. Got a couple more back there. I don't know if I want to put those in, but maybe a few back here. And then of course, remembering that the further away they are from us, the lighter they'll be in value. So you can take those forms and sort of blend them in. just be little tiny shapes up there. If you don't like them, blend them away. We could show that this is a person holding another little person. All right, looking at this, I'm just thinking, okay, maybe that shape could just be a little bit smaller. But otherwise, you know, it's not too shabby for a 20-minute study. So as always, I've provided the reference photo in the description below, and I hope that you'll give this one a shot. This one was a lot of fun. I wish I'd had about 10 more minutes on it, but hey, that's how it goes. Give yourself as much time as you need, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40, whatever it takes to help you feel like you're just a little bit under pressure and needing to make pertinent decisions really fast. And that's the whole point of this exercise. So as always, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.